Lisa and Robin are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robin on the mic.
Welcome back to the second hour of Lisa and Robin on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live as well as YouTube. You can always see our fabulous outfits on YouTube.
Yes.
We
didn't take a picture last week.
No, we didn't. Well, I think it's 2 weeks in a row we didn't take a picture.
I forgot what I was wearing too.
Yeah, I know. And now we don't have them for our feed. What are we going to do?
Well, this snaps all the way down. So before I left, I had to send Chris watch what I can do.
You would like, what is the rain jacket perv? Remember back in the day?
Yes.
when
Oh,
you could
yeah.
be a perv
Totally.
with a rain
Trench coat
jacket?
guy. Yeah.
Trench coat
Totally.
guy. So we are here with Nick Alarud, and we are talking about our journey to freedom. And you wanted to finish your conversation about your daughter, that puberty.
About self-talk in your head. having a girl made me more aware of it when she started going through adolescence. It made me think about what I'm actually speaking out.
Or modeling to her. And what are you modeling? Do you love yourself? Should she love her body? Especially, I think it's so tense.
I would always joke around and be a little bit derogatory and pick on my flaws. And then when I see her starting to cover up, I'm like, uh-oh, I need to erase any part. Because I was always saying, you're so beautiful and like growing. But what she's actually seeing is saying, but you're not loving you. And so where I would so on the golf course was a perfect example. Now my kids laugh about it. I would say terrible things. So now when I miss a shot or I say something, I don't cuss. I say, oh, piss. Because my kids are like, oh, piss. Why do you say, oh, piss? Like, where's that word come from? Or I'll just say, oh, mama, that's it. There's no, like, we're going to eradicate negativity. So just learning. And I also read this book, The Queen's Code. And she talks about, it's about self-reflection too. And a women, like, when we're putting our expectations on our spouse and we're disappointed in them for not performing, like they didn't take the trash out and they didn't make the bed or they left their clothes laying around or these things, why do we get frustrated at our spouse in things? Because asking a different question, like who am I comparing this person to? And we're comparing. The reason why we get irritated and frustrated at our significant others or our friends, it's because we're judging them against what we think is our perfect self.
Beautiful. Yeah. And expectations are the thief of joy.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
All of it. Yeah.
So, but it also creates, by having that, it creates space for allowing people to be them. Allowing them to be themselves. So,
and what I think is really interesting is we are obviously magnetically attracted to people. Or at least that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Like, there's this, I'm attracted to this person. Why do we then want to change them to be more like us when you were attracted to what you were attracted to, which probably wasn't? There has to be some similarity, but I love, have you ever seen the podcast Giggle Squad?
No.
It's like two 30-something-year-old girls, and they just cap on dating and relationships, and they were both on a reality television series, but they're funny. And so they said they're so opposite, but their sense of humor is the same.
Yeah.
So it's fine that this one wants to go on stage and be a stand-up comedian alone, and the other one doesn't want to go on stage at all. Like, it's their opposites are fine because they're connected by laughter. They're connected by their sense of humor. They get each other there, so they don't have to get any. And they talk about being in a partnership, like everyone their age. They're not in a marriage; they're in a sexless marriage, and it's their friendship.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're really, really good. I've been reading their book every morning. I will read her a section of the
God,
book.
she sends me a video every
A
morning. and I'm like,
paragraph of the book. It's been hilarious. But to talk about, we sort of have this journey that we're on, and for a lot of us it's the journey to freedom. We're trying to be free of expectation. We're trying to be free in our spirit and in our, I think, obviously financially we want some amount of freedom, because if you have had money problems, there's nothing worse than the money being the money could have solved this, and I can't solve it because I don't have the money to. My car broke down. If I had money, I could solve this, but I don't. So I do believe I am a capitalist at heart, somewhere in there, because I love, and we actually just got into this. So I have my in-laws came in, one of my in-laws came in from Greece, and his brother was telling us about this new economist that he's been listening to. And so I've been trying to find out, but he's a socialist.
Yeah.
So everyone at the table's all capitalists. We're like, right? And so I said, well, let's listen to why he thinks it's interesting so we can properly counteract it.
right.
But we have to listen to what he likes about it.
Yeah.
So everybody was like, people were getting up from the table, and this is like, shh. And he's like, it's an open discussion. We can have an open discussion, He's 80, And I just want to hear him talk. What does he get to talk about, really? So he's telling us, and then I'm able to find the wormhole. And so I say why capitalism works,
And how did he respond to that?
He stood up and shook my hand.
Okay,
There you go.
that's respectful, right?
No, he
Boom.
didn't. Now he's not. He still loves the guy who's talking about socialism as a method
You should just do
forward.
a mic drop and then slide your chair back and walk away from the table.
But he did shake my hand, and he was laughing because I was saying that his family came over. One of his family members came over from Greece because they could not make any money in Greece. There was no way to get out of the poverty they were in, and they came here, worked hard, brought over their family members, bought them houses, got them cars, got them working. They had a good life.
Yeah.
And I said that only happened because of capitalism. That didn't happen in socialism, because you would all have to be doing the same exact thing, getting you one potato.
There it is.
And so that's when he's like, all right, I'll shake your hand. That's a good one.
Hard
But
to argue that one.
but I think listening to understand what he's talking about, but I also don't think we often don't give in conversations people the space just to express themselves, even especially when we disagree with them. Like there's no room for the disagreement.
Right.
And I think that goes back to
Because a lot of times people get into a conversation, they don't want to hear. They're not open for opportunity to learn. They want to, I feel, they want to impress their opinion on you.
There it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested in that anymore. We even said it the other day. Like if I'm in a conversation with people and they're not asking me any questions anymore, then I'm just done with the conversation. I mean, if I want to, but I'm finally like, I will listen.
how many
And
conversations
we're not
are
going
you
to have
ending?
dialogue anymore.
How many conversations?
A few.
A lot. There's a lot of them. And I notice it more and more because of this podcast, because the conversation only goes back and forth. It's a game. Our conversation is a game. And I'm volleying and you're volleying
Yes.
and I'm catching and I'm throwing, and it only works that way.
Yeah, so the conversation ends with me is when I realize like you're not open to learning and you're not open to any, you don't really care about anything I have to say. So I'll hold space for a little while and then okay, but it's you just want to make me conform to
This
your
is a
opinion
one-way
and
TED
your
Talk.
mindset, and I'm like, yes.
Yes. Yes.
One way TED Talk.
It is.
So
I didn't know I was in the audience.
so let me put the spotlight on you.
yes.
One
Speaker event.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was dissonance. And along your journey, what can you tell us about heart coherence and then heart dissonance?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were talking about that off air a little bit. It's so interesting. So I knew, right? So we're going back now 3 years. We're talking about differing opinions. And 6 years ago, like whoever thought that
Yeah.
you guys would have like a psychic shaman in training,
Right.
like you're just chatting with you when I used to be like this business guy. But going back to that, right? There was something in me that I knew was off, for probably more than 5 years. But it's okay. My brain was strong enough to just, that's not important. We're going to fix the problem, fix the problem, fix the problem, build this, build this, build this. And that,
So almost like a doubling down.
that was my safe space, right? So, and it didn't even matter because my definition of success to my brain was what I had been trained for, right? Taking care of the family, net worth, cash flow, build. Like, as long as I have multiple streams of income coming in, I'm successful. Without seeing, right, the lack of intimacy or connection in my relationships, or the lack of time that I would be spending with my kids, or the lack of self-love, zero self-love, zero mobility. So my body reacted because my brain was so darn strong. I still didn't know what it was like to connect to the heart. What does that even mean?
Right.
But there was a 3 to 4 year period where it started by just not wanting. You wake up and you're like, first there's the anxiety and the tenseness and the fear around all these weird things because you have so many plates in the air. And then, of course, stress is added, or different stresses are added. And you start to, okay, well, I'll figure that out too. And your body's like jolting. And in the mornings, you just don't want to get up anymore. You're scared to look at your phone. You're scared to check your emails. You're scared to have to go to an office and even if your office is, if it's your office and you were the boss, you still don't want to go in.
Right.
And that's what ultimately happened. And every single day, I remember just waking up being like, I don't want to do this anymore. I didn't say that. I didn't know that was what was happening. This was the dissonance where my heart was screaming, stop. This isn't you. This isn't why you got into this. And the brain's like, no, I'll figure it out. Problem solve. I can build more and build more.
Yeah.
And it
It's
took
a glitch in the matrix.
glitch in the matrix.
I'll fix it.
And for me, other people smarter than me listened to their intuition, listened to their heart, took those moments of awareness and recharted. For me, I had to burn it all to the ground, right?
Yeah.
And people don't have to do that. But again, even that for me was perfect because without that extreme thing that happened, I wouldn't have gone on my own self-awareness
It's
journey.
almost like your brain was so strong, your mind was so strong that you had to have a physical
Oh yeah.
disconnect.
Yeah.
And so tearing down a structure physically,
Yes.
something like you could visibly see that I am taking this down. It was your body, your mind saying, okay, we're going to, and maybe in your heart getting more and more strength
Yeah.
as it's watching it.
Do you also think that you had so much responsibility? You had a team of people that you were keeping alive, that you were keeping their
I felt all of it at the end, Lisa. Yeah.
So do you think that's also why you couldn't feel it, was because you were also now going to have to understand that you have made all of these people your responsibility to them?
For sure. Well, that was part of the weight, right? And that's what it is. Wait. And it ultimately ended up like physically, we talk physically, like I was dropping off, right, my wife at the chiropractor, and I started to seize up, right? Lost feeling in my arms, lost feeling in my legs, thought I was having a heart attack, woke up at Lawrence General Hospital. And without knowing, I had never, ever, and of course they checked me, like, you have really high blood pressure, but you're fine. I'm
question
fine.
mark. Your big question mark. Go back out there.
What, like what? Yeah, like what? And then I was just afraid to have that again.
Yeah.
So my body would react the same way, and I would start to lose the feeling in my hands, and that's when I was like, something's not okay with me. And I had, still the brain was like, I'll go to my safe space, which for me was work, right? I'm good here.
Yeah.
I'll go back here, and like, and my body was just like, no, shut down. No, you're losing your feeling again. No, we're gonna keep doing this until you finally surrender. The word.
Yeah.
And surrender for me is different than surrender for other people, you know. But dissonance, to go back to dissonance, your brain can overcompensate and solve any problem in the world. That's what it's built to do, right? Michael Singer jokes about this earth was here with water, rocks, and sand and air, and somehow the human mind took those elements, created microchips and rockets to blast ourselves off.
Yes.
It's the brain, and how powerful is that? But the problem is, we at a young age, the heart felt something it didn't want. It got hurt. It felt unsafe. So it says to the brain when really young, hey, listen, I need you to go through every single scenario so we don't feel this anymore. The brain's like, are you sure? I built rocket ships. Are you
Yeah,
sure you want me to do that? Because I'm really good at it.
Right.
Like, yes, please keep me safe. Don't let me feel those negative emotions. okay, I got this. And that begins all the stories,
Yeah.
all the anxiety spirals, all of the scenario building and all. And it also created a brain that could build really cool things. But then we lose the entire connection to the beginning of the heart saying, actually, wait a second, that's not what I wanted. Actually, our heart knows what it needs, what it wants in this
Right.
life. It knows where we're supposed to go. It knows what we're supposed to do. And it knows what talents, gifts, and abilities we have in this life that we get to showcase. And if we're in a career or if we wake up every single day and are doing something opposite to what the heart knows, that's the dissonance. That's when you're going to start not wanting to wake up any morning. You don't know what this negative energy is. You
Or
don't-
these ailments.
Chaotic energy
Ailment.
too.
I have
think.
headaches every day. I
Ah,
have
there
whatever,
it is.
whatever. You can start having physical ailments because it is. When I had my heart issue, I ended up in the hospital and they said you lost 50% of the function of your heart, but we don't see why. Like, yeah, you have unchecked AFib, but that shouldn't have caught. Like, they were just like, yeah, you have AFib, but yeah, maybe.
Right.
Is this going to happen again? Hopefully not. Like, so you start like, oh no, I've got to get down. So you do this deep dive because now we have all these books and these podcasts from people, and you can talk to or listen to, not talk to, but neuroscientists and all these things. And that was one thing I kind of came upon was that the heart, we think the brain is just the brain. And the brain is almost like the processing center and the
Yes.
command center. But our stomach and our heart are also brains, if we could just think of them that way. And
That's a good way to look at it.
they're all connected by the vagus nerve,
Mm,
right?
yes.
That's the highway that lets all the communication go back and forth. And one of the things that I was reading was that the heart actually, if they just take a heart, it has an energetic field of like 3 or 6 feet from the
Yes.
body,
Yes.
right? But when you're constantly closing off the heart, how does everything else function?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if this is the woo-woo part of the science
Well,
that I don't
say
think
your
they have the
stomach has
answer
a brain
to.
too. So
Yes.
you even talk about like all your chakras, and like I like thinking about it as your brain is your conscious control center, and I think that your heart is your unconscious center brain. It's your and maybe and I think that's your maybe that's the spirit energy, and I without being all woo woo, but then I think that your gut is your intuition, your stomach, you know,
Yes.
your chakra system. You know, you look at all the, I don't know.
Because when you feel it, when something happens and your stomach feels off, that initial like jolt, that a lot of times I feel it in my stomach first. When there's like an off, it's the stomach that's off
It's true.
before my brain, and then my brain goes, oh, my stomach's off, and then it's like, oh, what's
Was it something I ate? No, I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
you do that. No, you do that. Like,
Right.
but then if back to that Gavin Decker
Mm.
book about the gift of fear, you don't have to analyze it. You just have to listen to it.
Beautifully said. Beautifully, and we might have already. I don't in your audience. Like I don't know how woo woo they are, but it's
They listen, so they're a little woo woo.
exactly it.
They don't acknowledge. Sometimes they don't acknowledge the woo woo, but they're a little woo woo.
The body is the center. So we keep coming back to the body. And it's again, I was so disconnected from my body for so many years, right? Well,
Yeah.
because it was the mind. And I don't care. That's when my knees, back, ankles, neck, everything was screaming at me, right? To go get a massage, to go do a yoga class, but I didn't know any of that was. So we would just we pop pills because that's what our doctors give us is our whatever pharmaceuticals to help you relieve
Stop
the
the
pain,
symptoms.
stop the symptoms.
Stop the-
Right.
And some people feel it in their stomach, some people feel it in their neck, some people feel it in their scalp. That is the basis of the correct decision. So we know innately everything that there is to already know. If we think about our bodies when we have a wound on the arm, we're not thinking about the cells going to the area, fleshing it out, and cleaning it all out, and then having it clot. Right? We don't think of that. It happens when a woman delivers a baby. You haven't figured that out. It just sort of happens, which is still the coolest thing in the world, right? You
Right.
created a human, and if we trust that we don't know what's happening and it's still going for the right side of us,
Yep.
we are led to have to trust almost anything that we feel in our body and be more connected to it. That's why I think yoga is an essential practice too to a lot of people, right? Breath work, yoga,
Yeah,
that sort of
and
thing.
it reminds you it's a practice.
Yeah,
Well, I was trying to find that
Life is
quote
just a big practice.
in the book, The Body Keeps Score.
that's the one. I love that
That's
book.
a good book. It was
And for people who don't know, while she's looking for that, the Body Keep Score was a psychiatrist who was helping people who came back from the Vietnam War and deal with post-traumatic stress before they even identified what post-traumatic stress was. And he found that we hold everything in our body. And like some of the techniques are when someone's telling you about something, you tell them to run, or you can do it on a treadmill or something. Physically moving the body moves the energy, because going back to when a deer is chased by a mountain lion, the minute it stops, it goes back to restfully grazing.
Yeah.
But they do notice that they will shake. There is like a shake that they do
to release,
because they're releasing all the adrenaline.
Yeah.
And what we did was 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, we ran from things, or we tracked and killed things, or avoided being killed. And now
And then
we're
you would dance
sitting,
back then too.
Yeah.
To release.
There was that's a big component of culture. And now we don't dance, we don't shake.
Yep.
We just sit in our and stew.
Keep it all in. That's right. That's right.
Tamp
Yes.
down.
So for any listeners listening, like if you could take a minute, just a second, to close your eyes and take that deep breath in. And you release. Where in your body do you still feel tension? Where in your body do you feel firmness? Do you feel slightly off? This is not necessarily just that you did a hard workout 2 days ago. Could be, but listen to it. What is it trying to tell you? What does it need from you, right? So we connect with our body in that way by asking it questions, because it knows. It knows. And the only way we can hear the response is to sit in that silence, to not have the mind and the self-chatter over speak, and just let the body, let the message come in. You know, what does it need from you? And most of the time, it comes back to an act of self-love. Most of the time, it's like, you're not taking care of this or this or this or this. Or as people are crossing so many boundaries in your life right now, where do you have to set a proper and an acceptable boundary? This is our only work. This is our only work in this life. And you mentioned financial freedom. Just to go on that train for a second, what I've now learned after building and growing and grinding and hustling for so many years, finances now, money now, to me is a byproduct. It's a byproduct of me doing the work to be a better father, to be a better leader. And when I do my own inner work, which I do every single day, when I find a story that no longer serves me and I'm shifting it to the new story, and I write it down and I journal it, and I'm like, okay, I'm living this now. Or if I'm seeing myself chasing something, I'm like, what's the feeling that I'm chasing? That by chasing this thing, I'm chasing a feeling. It's all I'm chasing. So what if I can live in that feeling right now? For those people who are struggling financially, that's what they talk about with setting your identity. If you don't feel that you are worthy of having that house, of having that car, of having that $1 million, then that's going to tell the universe you will not have the miracles that are put in place for you to receive, because you can't hold. And that's why people who win the lottery, they take it and it's gone in a year, because they're not capable of holding it. So how can we live in the version of us that we desire, the version of us that does have everything we need to experience life, to have a connected and intimate relationship with our spouse or our partners, to be an amazing human being and as a role model for our kids, because as Robin said, they see what we do and they also see what we don't do. They're always watching and internalizing, just like we did when we were little. So how can we show up for ourselves in that best way possible, and knowing that the only solution to all of that is to learning to love ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper and explore ourselves every single day? That's the only work. Doesn't matter career, doesn't matter self-employed, doesn't matter chasing investments in the high yield accounts. Like we can do all that. We can choose to do all that.
Right.
But it starts here.
Right. And why are you doing what you're doing will help that. When I was in yoga after the heart thing, I was in that, it's not dancer, it's like half moon, but you grab the back leg. I forget what it's called.
Oh, funky flamingo.
Funky
I
flamingo.
don't know, that's what I call it.
Yeah. And so I'm in and I said to myself, oh, why is my body feeling me? And straight as day, loud as could be, was, you are feeling your body. Your body's not feeling you. You are feeling it. Start treating it a little bit more respectfully.
You've
it
been
will be
mistreating
fine.
me for 30 years, and you want me to do one move for you now? That's what. And by the way, that goes to relationships too. We've been treating each other like shit for, for the last
Yeah.
10 years,
Yeah.
and now here we are. You
Right.
want one date night to solve everything? No, it takes time,
Right.
effort, energy, connection.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. That was
Yeah.
a good one.
When you do psychic, now hypnotizing things. I saw this great guy, Chase Hughes. Have you seen his work?
I don't think I've seen Chase.
Okay,
Hughes, no.
if you can look up Chase Hughes, he talks about how we're all being brainwashed a little bit, and to make sure you're into good brainwashing.
I think we can all agree with that. That's good. Yep.
And I'm
Yes,
not
yes,
sure
yes.
that he would agree that that's what his message is, but that's what I get when I listen to him. Like, it's very easy to brainwash the mind. You can brainwash the mind for good things. You can brainwash the mind for bad things. The mind can easily be brainwashed.
And I think that's why so that reminded me of what the conversation that we said when I talked about eradicating negativity and words of punishment. Duty and obligation. I don't like obligation. I feel like it's a negative word.
Just
when
both those
when
words.
you hear it. But so to me, I feel like duty is. I feel like it's me. It's an honor. So
Ooh.
I feel like a duty. It's a duty. It's my duty to raise good human being. My duty to. It's my duty to love this person. It's my duty to show up as my best self. So I think that is. So I see duty as an honor. I
Yeah.
see obligation as a negativity.
Yeah.
It's a drain. So duty makes me feel like. To me in my brain, we talked about this last time. I like faucet and drain. There's people that are faucets and there's people that are drains. And I feel like obligation is a draining word. It just makes you feel like, ugh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not performing or I'm not good enough. I'm doing these things. What I've been focusing on is, it's been proven over and over again that the universe will match you.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
think getting your words right and getting your intentions right are crucial in just being in that space.
But you do have to a lot for the universe saying, really?
Yes, hold my beer. You sure you want that?
Hold my beer. We got a few versions of you got to kill off first before we get to that one. But yeah,
Yes.
well, let's go.
Yes, yes.
Because you have to keep proving that that's what you want.
But I do. I think that I do think that you're put in a position to say, "Hey, I'll offer this to you, but are you going to rise to the challenge?"
Yeah.
And so, part of my journey is that self-discovery. Like everything we already know is already inside of us. We said it earlier today, but recognizing what are the things that we are holding on to that aren't serving us, old traumas, our childhood, those things, that energy is still in our bodies. So even though the event is gone, the energy's still there until we release it.
Yes.
And I do want to say that some of us do work, like therapy work, and you're like, the family thing is kind of old, but you can develop these types of coping habits for any situation.
Yes.
You're in a job you don't like, you're dealing with a health crisis, whatever. You can create new things that actually have nothing to do with childhood. So if you try to look for their origin there, you'll be looking for a long time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
back to the brainwashing, which is why I wanted to talk about the hypnosis a little bit. I think I feel distinctly terrible when I get off of. I can't even go on Facebook. I get so upset on Facebook. Like that is a platform that I can't even spend 5 minutes on there. I try to go on because we have a page and I'm trying to do stuff on it, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I get off this page. And I used to really like Instagram because it was pretty pictures, but now it has changed. It's always yelling at me that I must talk about menopause a lot because now every single ad is, are you a woman in menopause? Do you have those awful laugh lines that you need to erase off your face, because you've been enjoying your life,
Yes. Get rid of menopause,
You need this
belly fat.
collagen. You need this
Yes.
collagen. You need this hair pill.
Or they have their birthdays and they just decide that that's what they're going to do.
No,
But
they've been listening to me
Instagram
talk.
is like, you have to scroll through so many before you even get to one of your friends. These
Yeah.
sponsor, and I'm like, I'm just done with all of it.
But I
There
think
it
going
is.
back to the, conversation on, I think we're being brainwashed now by constantly looking outside of ourselves. And then doing that comparison.
Well, in social media specifically, where it has the whole reason it's so effective is because it causes the chemical reaction in the body of dopamine, right? And that itself that's more
Yeah.
addicting than anything else. And that's why our attention span has gone from, 30 minutes to 10 minutes to 1 minute to 10 seconds because we're addicted to that chemical reaction in the brain. And then we go on these things and there's comparison again, right? We're seeing the top 3 to 5% trophy reels of other people's lives. And
Yeah.
like there's a comparison and there's an ex relationship that might be sliding back in your DMs and that might want to what does it all mean? And then of course the ads and the ads and the ads. Content, we talked about at the very beginning, right? I feel like the content we put into our eyes, ears, and brain is just the same, if not more important than using our low carb diets that we
Right,
do
and
with high
working out
nutrient
like a
diets.
maniac,
Yeah.
20 hours a day, to get your muscles. Like, if you're not nourishing mind, body, and spirit, you're not
Yes.
going to be healthy,
Yes.
no matter
yes.
what you eat and no matter how many times you work out.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's really funny because I had curated my feed enough that I had astrophysics. I
Yeah.
just had a lot of stuff, a lot of woo-woo science stuff, a lot of astrology stuff, a lot of star planet stuff. And then I must have started talking about menopause, and now it's all gone. I'm like, I had cats and stardust.
I had a good thing going.
Good thing going. And then I must have complained too much about menopause.
It kind of goes back to what you're talking about. They say addicted to trauma. Addicted to trauma. Addicted
That's
to
a whole
drama.
other thing. You
But
both. Yeah.
because I've known certain people, and the more that you become self-aware and you see your own flaws and your own hang-ups, the more you actually see it in other people too. And so that can be a little bit difficult.
That's why I say starve it of air.
Yes.
When I notice myself being like, what's your problem? It's like, oh, you're bored.
Yeah.
Like when you kind of really have and then it's like, because you're creating a drama where there's no drama.
But there's if you
And
think
if you
about it, there's
starve it
lots
air-
of people. There are a few people that that thrive on drama, and because once that goes down, it does release a chemical in their brain, and it. When they don't have that and you feel that again, guess what they do? They're going to find another problem because they need to go back up. And it's a feeling. And now you think that you're just angry all the time, but it's actually a chemical reaction in your brain.
Yes.
It's a chemical reaction making you, be an idiot, a grumpy idiot.
Because that's a story they've chosen that has served them
Yes.
up until a certain moment. And now they don't even know what their identity would be if they were to let that go.
Yes.
Right.
That's
Right.
their
So that's a
resistance to
huge
letting
piece
go
of it.
of that
Right.
story. Yeah.
So who am I without this?
Yeah. What would exactly?
Who am I without this?
What
Who
would
am
it
I?
feel like? That was my question. That would
Yeah.
be
Who would I be? But I think the identity piece is I am a resilient, self-reliant business owner.
hard worker.
Right? Hardworking. Who am I without hardworking? Who am I without business owner? Who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I? That is the frightening question.
I'm
Sometimes.
putting the hands up because that is the only question.
Yeah.
And here, the advanced student, can we ask that question and have zero attachment to any answer to it? But we get to choose every single moment what that answer is. And that was one of the hardest parts of my life, is to drop one label at a time. Okay, I'm not this anymore. Then who am I? That's not the question right now. It kept coming back to me. That's not your question.
Yeah.
Sit in it. Sit in it. This
Yeah.
is, and
Yeah.
letting go of this, a real estate investor and business owner and hard worker and earning things, and all of those labels shed away. And then who are you? And once that beautiful moment, which is usually, I look at that as almost a rock bottom, because your entire identity is gone. Once you realize that the only thing that you are is a divine being, right?
Right.
Made of source, made of universe, sent by God, whatever you want to call it. And you're here to experience life as one perspective of the whole. That's it.
And then
There's
it's almost
nothing
like,
else.
then the answer can be, and I want to bring compassion, and I want to bring
Yeah.
kindness to myself and other people, and then it's what do you want to do from that spot that's not protecting the identity that's constantly injured.
Beautiful. That's when you can finally grow. That's when the alignment. Now your heart's in control.
Mm-hmm.
Now the brain. Now you've shed, because the brain is the fear and all the stuff around your identity is all brain.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you've shed all that, the heart's now in control again and can say, okay, now that you're listening to me again, what do you want? What do we want to build?
Yeah.
Now we can go towards something of service to people, or of service, as long as we hold ourselves in that high love regard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. We're not trading
Yeah.
someone else for ourselves.
So Thomas Campbell, he wrote, "You are a stream of consciousness, a subset of a larger consciousness. It's like a video game. You're the player, and you get a data stream. It's like playing, and we're all dealt different cards. You get a data stream, and we can turn that into." I didn't have my glasses. You get a data stream, and we can turn that. It's like the Sims game, consciousness and unconsciousness, outer body. It's just different streams of data, but yet we are a piece of collective consciousness. So once realize that yes, we are a stream of consciousness, but we're all a piece of a collective. We're all tied together. We're all a piece of the same universe. I love that.
So
We've already lost half of your non-woo-woo listeners.
know.
But
Like,
hey,
what?
listen, if they're still with us, this is the target right here.
well, I do think I want to ask you this question before I forget, because this made me think of it. What is your relationship to karma? Or
To
do you
karma.
believe in karma?
Karma. So we're already kind of going deep here, aren't we? So we've already lost most of the people.
We haven't. We haven't. I promise.
So karma for me, that's cool. We just talked about dropping all labels on identities, which is beautiful. And karma itself. So there's two fields of thought, right? And this might trigger a lot of religious people out there. And I grew up Catholic, born and raised. I was an altar boy. Never was touched, unfortunately. I wasn't chosen by the cat. I'm joking about that because I can. I was all right. That's all right.
I was good looking. enough. You
Exactly.
should have went after. What about
See?
me? I liked Snickers.
See, let's shift the trauma, right? Abandonment issues. What
they
the
just
hell?
knew that little gleam in your eye, that they had that little defiance, like, skip him.
He is not going to do it the way
He's
I
going to
want.
cause trouble.
He's going to want something that I don't want to. He's going to not be. That's it.
But in the religious upbringings, right? Everyone has their own. We talked about going to hell, right? And Catholics had a lot of purgatory, and if you didn't do that,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting because, I mean, I've now had so many experiences, both through breath work, through yoga, through meditation, and also through psychedelics we've talked about before, where now I've seen things. There's no more having faith. There's just knowing. There's a
Right.
innate knowing, because we all know everything that needs to be known. It just has to be found in ourselves. And talk about karma. So in that, a lot of people don't believe, or some people believe in reincarnation, coming back right in a new life to learn and explore. And I do believe in that. What I believe in now, which we'll talk about a book here in a second, because it blew my mind when I read it. A lot of people have a fear of death, right? And if we're going too deep right now that we don't have to, but I in my experiences, I found a few people, one of them being a doctor, Dr. Michael Newton, who linked, who was a hypnotherapist that didn't necessarily believe in past lives, right? But he found the benefit in people who did, leading them through a past life to overcome a trauma, so they would release an addiction or release an anxiety or whatever it would be. And he had a client that he brought them through their past life. They went through their death, and the client kept talking. I'm being pulled into this thing, and I'm going into, I see this big bright light and this and that. So he continued with this client under hypnosis who remembered nothing to bring him into the spirit world. And in the spirit world, still under hypnosis, started to give the hypnotist a description of everything that was happening, of the beings of light that were surrounding him, of what was actually happening with cleansing of the human spirit, remembering who he is, going back to the loving spirits and he found it so interesting that this happened with one client, that he decided to try again with another, and then another, and then another. 300 clients later, he has the exact same stages of the in-between death and new life. And he then wrote a book about it called Journey of Souls, Dr. Michael Newton. And he chapters the book with the same 6 or 7 stages from death into new life and reincarnation. And every, of course, one of his clients comes out of the hypnosis, remembers nothing, but he has them all on recording. So they're all blown away by all of the things. So with that book specifically, even if you're not into yoga, breath work, or psychedelic work, that shows, oh, we are just part of a collective. And our only role, we do pick our parents, which might trigger a lot of us too. We do pick our biggest conflicts, challenges, struggles in this life, because that is how we are growing as a spirit. We are growing as a consciousness. And that's the only point, the only purpose of life is to expand. So with that said, how are we expanding this life? Most of us bounce back and forth between the shores of pleasure and pain. And it's through the pain we learn and self-aware and the discovery. And we bounce to pleasure, and then we go in another pit, going back to pain. And this is so all that to say, that's my very big role. Karma itself is, yes, right, what you do unto others as you want it done to yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't do something right in this world, that might come back to haunt you in another life. I don't necessarily believe in that anymore. I do believe that what we put out, we do get back. But if there's no going to hell when we leave this earth now. We go reading that book. If anyone wants to read it from this doctor, we remember all. We remember who we actually are. We remember we're not even necessarily always in human form, right? But we go back to this thing and we're totally cleansed. And everything that was ever regretted or guilty or shame, like those are all learned emotions. That's not real. We get cleansed of all of our humanized conditioning. And then we get to choose again. Do we come back to Earth? Do we stay there to do some deep studying, whatever that even means, right? Do we go to a different dimension or planet and incarnate there? Like this, all this stuff is, and I'm saying it sounds crazy, and most people won't believe it. But it's interesting when you see another hypnotist that also didn't believe it.
Right.
Take people through this, and it's data, so he's got to do something with that data.
Right.
So it sounds so far-fetched in so many ways, but then it excites me about the possibility of it, because we actually get in any moment to choose whatever we believe.
Yeah.
I mean, look how many people believe that the world was flat, the earth was flat forever.
And they still believe in it. There's a million of them.
Yes.
They have a website.
But before you say that, so I'm doing a TED Talk, or my TED Talk that I'm writing is about legacy. It's one of the messages that I feel has been in my body for a minute. So it's why memories are so important to me. So what I've been saying, and I didn't realize I was saying it as quite frequently as I have, but I've said to Chris or something, after I'm gone, you're going to remember this one day and you're going to laugh your ass off, or say this. I'm like, you're going to be scrolling through your phone one day, or you're going to be, you're going to put up something on YouTube and you're going to hear something that I said and it's going to make you laugh. Like, that's what I want to leave behind. I want to leave light and love behind. So the other day I had said something on the golf course about remembering this moment. And he said, "Don't you worry, little girl. I will find you again."
Yeah.
And I just I feel that pressure in my chest right now, because just the way he says it, and he's always called me, not always, but he'll always call me little girl.
Yeah.
I got you, little girl. Come on. Or he was like, "I will find you again, little girl." And I was like,
Feel it. Right?
Oh my God. I
Yeah.
was like, it makes my arms just rubbery right now. But
That's
he's
your
like,
soul
you do
tribe.
know that he said, you do know that we've been together before. And I'm like, well, maybe.
If you believe that
He's
stuff.
like, come on. No, I do believe he is the most comfortable person I've ever been able to be. Wholly me, good, bad, and the ugly. So yes, I do believe it. I don't know what incapacity it was, but
It's deep, isn't it? If you think about it, that all of these soul partners and soul tribes, right? We made all these arrangements before we even came into this body. It's crazy to say, and lots of people will disagree with me, and that's okay. That's all. We all have our choices. But like, with that said, like, you and Chris made certain agreements, right? And you and Lisa and Robin made certain agreements in this life to come in. And it doesn't mean it's forever. It's the entire life. Some people, we make agreements with our former partners. You're going to teach me this. I'm going to teach you that. Great. Cool. Let's go.
yes.
Yeah.
And to another part that's going to trigger people, but let's go. I love triggers.
Oh, me too. Me
The
too.
book, the book talks about the book even talks about miscarriages and stillborns, and how we're obviously it's such a tremendous, it's a physical and emotional loss for everyone, but the books, while in the spirit world, it shows in the last chapter spirit hovering over the body because we're choosing the parents. And sometimes it doesn't even go into the body until even 6 months of age when it's already been delivered. And it's just saying, it's still making those last minute agreements with the other Soul Tribe members. Okay, remember, we're going to do this. Okay, cool. We're going to meet each other at 18, 24 years old, 32 years old. Okay, cool. And then one of the spirits is like, yeah, you know what? Not yet. And go back up. I'll wait this one out. He's like, well, what do you mean? Okay, cool. Well, me too. And that's a stillborn and miscarriage. So he goes in hypnosis.
Yeah.
These spirits that don't even enter the body, and the body is created, but there was no consciousness. It's really interesting. I know I just triggered lots of people.
Well,
so it's like
I was raised Catholic, and then I really lost my faith when my father died. And I have come back into my faith since then in a completely different capacity. Not the way that I was raised, in a way that actually believe or feel. And my husband's grandmother was passing away, and I was caring for her, so that I was trying to do the things. Obviously, everyone was caring for her, but I was trying to do the things so that her family could just be their family and not a caretaker. And so I felt very, very connected to her passing. I was trying to be a peaceful conduit to get to the other side, because she was so strong and she loved her family so much. You could tell she just didn't want to let go. She had beautiful great-grandchildren. There was just so much here. And I'm feeling a feeling. I can't explain it. And I feel like she's ready to go. And I want my husband and her daughter to leave the room, because I know she's not going to go in front of them. She's just not. Not for them. She's not giving them that. And so I tell them to go downstairs. Like, could you go get us something to drink? And both of them are like, no. And I'm like, then I will go get us something to drink. So I go downstairs to another level, another floor, where there's just offices, so there's nobody there. And I'm walking through this floor, and the big, heavy hospital door clicks open. And so all my hair stands up, because there's not supposed to be anyone on this floor. And I'm expecting a janitor or someone to walk out. No one walks out, but the door closes. And I'm like, oh, freaky. And then it happens again. The door opens again. And I now feel a presence. And I'm trying to get drinks, and I can only get one drink out before I'm like, I felt a very powerful, energetic force. So I come up, and I'm like, oh, it's in the elevator with me. I'm bringing it into the room. And I'm like, oh, is this death? Is this the hand of death? But it wasn't. And I don't know how I can explain that I knew it wasn't. And then I washed my face, because I'm trying to wash it off of me. And so I said to my husband, I'm like, is there do you feel like there's something here? Or I feel like, and my husband's like, don't worry about it. You've been up for 7 days. If you said you saw the Care Bears, I wouldn't think about it. So we leave to go change and get clothes. Her daughter falls asleep in the room. The minute her daughter falls asleep, my grandmother passes.
Yeah.
I go home and I sleep, and I wake up, and I'm like, oh, it was your grandfather. It was her husband who passed away when he was 42, and she's 91.
Yeah.
And I was like, he came for her. And then I was like, oh, I have to tell everybody, he came for her. And the weird thing was, when I called and told his aunt, which is her daughter, my aunt said, everyone said that when he passed away, either the doorbell rang or there was a knock on the window. I think he uses doors. And I was like, your grandfather's quite the gentleman, but he used the door to come into the hospital. But from that point forward, I knew we didn't die.
Yeah.
And then I was able to reconnect to my father, who had passed away years and years ago, but I never really felt connected to him. And I was, once that door opened, sorry, I'm crying. Once that door opened, I could open it again and again. But it wasn't until I believed that it was there. Because it was the non-believing in it that prevented it from being seen.
Yes. Beautiful.
So
Thank
when you say things about
Energy is always
energy.
moving.
I actually don't think we die. I just think we
Always.
take the different form that we had before we came into our bodies. And I think that's actually what God is the creation of it.
That is so beautiful, and the description. And it's funny because in the spirit world, time's only real in our dimension. So he goes into detail. I keep referencing the book because otherwise people would think that I'm just talking crazy. But no, there's somebody else that's talking crazy. I'm just repeating what he's done. So
And it was
It
published.
wasn't me.
right, it wasn't. But in that same book, right, they talk about a lot of when we transition, when we pass. It's the feeling is waking up. This is actually the dream. And then when we pass, we wake up and then remember all the past lives, all of our soul people, all of our relationships. Anything that's ever said or unsaid is now known and understood. All the emotion, because all we are, right, is we carry that light, that energy with us, and we take our love, we take our connection, we take our wisdom, our experience, and our expansion. We take all that with us. We don't take the houses, the cars, the money, like the stuff that's
body.
earthly, the body. We don't take any of that with us. So with that, when people do pass, there's a whole nother chapter around how they're not, while they're called to go where are they going, there's that portal, a lot of them will stay for days, weeks, months, because they're just making sure their loved ones are taken care of. They already are aware that they're transitioned, and they're like, oh, but, I see Lisa really, really struggling with
Have
this.
you read that book, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven?
No, I haven't. No.
It's good. Yeah, because he talks about writing it in the in-between space. And he goes back and he sees his mom and dad from a different perspective. And he sees like some of the hardships in his choices through a different perspective. And how he's had impact and like how one person has died to save him. He talks about as a kid, a ball ran out into the street.
Oh,
Anyway,
2 good books.
I know.
Journey of Souls
We'll
and the
finish
5
it.
People You Meet in Heaven.
means Nick's got to come back.
Thank you, Nick, for joining us for another 2 hours.
Love that.
We'll see you next Thursday.
Watch and stream at WSMN.live.